Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 744 for the 8th of March. And again, let's start off with the frontline changes report. Now, the first one, we're going to go to Tonenke, over at the Avdiivka Front. So this is Avdiivka city, and at the Avdiivka Front, there is frontline changes south of Olivka. So this is a continuation of the previous change. So 2 days ago, the Russian forces managed to capture this parcel of land south of Olivka in this attack. And because of this, the Russians could potentially attack in this direction to cut off Tonenke. And however, this is of course not exactly the easiest because the Ukrainians can reinforce pretty quickly, but they managed to hit south, which the Ukrainians would not be able to if the Russians are heading in this direction. So, and they managed to capture one of this building. They were geolocated over there, this geolocation by Kreminna Front, and this made it impossible for the Ukrainian mappers to ignore, and they considered that the Russians have taken the entire northern part of Tonenke and actually stranded Ukrainian forces within the southern part of Tonenke. The northern part, of course, here is a question mark. We're not sure if the Ukrainian forces are there able to hold a defense or try to break through, but tentatively there seems to be some kind of operational encirclement of Ukrainian forces at Tonenke itself. So this is Tonenke. There's further up north. There is two frontline change. This is based on Russian mapping. This is not confirmed by Ukrainian mapping just yet. So this is a one-sided thing. These Russian claims. Russian forces have taken this parcel, these 323 lines south of Novokalynove, which is over here, and the Russian forces also seems to have retaken this part of land they previously have managed to take before, and then was pushed back by the Ukrainian forces just off Novobakhmutivka. So these two, not sure when these two happened. There's no reports of fighting in this area here. The last time that we saw fighting was on the 18th of February, and over at Krasnohorivka is on 4th of March. So it could be the 4th of March one, just a few days ago, around almost a week ago. So that's all for the frontline changes over at this area here. And one last frontline change is over at Krasnohorivka. So we have been wondering of whether these reports of Russian forces attacking in the south of Krasnohorivka, did it really happen? Because it was totally ignored or unacknowledged by the Ukrainian side. And this time now, there is undeniable information. There is geolocation by Chris 759, and Chris managed to geolocate Russian forces landing their troops through an attack, through an armored attack into this settlement, and the Russian troops have indeed landed within the settlements inside, and starting to fight outwards. And this is based on an edited video, which means that the video definitely comes days before the release of that video, which means that this is now the first confirmation of Russian forces entering the southern part of Krasnohorivka, and thus invalidated this entire swath of land that the Ukrainians have not acknowledged. But we cannot confirm just by this geolocation that the Russian forces have taken, this tree line along the railway line. This one we cannot confirm, and of course the rest of this claim, the rest of the claim also we cannot confirm just yet, because this is only just one location of Russians' initial attack into Krasnohorivka. So given the fact that if the Russians are here, this area here is definitely not, this southern part is definitely not under Ukrainian control, so which is why the entire mapping is changed in this way. So that's all for the Krasnohorivka and the frontline changes report. In terms of the strategic and tactical reporting, there's nothing over at the Kherson Front. Over at the Zaporizhzhia Front, there is still fighting in this area here in the Orikhiv sector. This is Orikhiv. The Russian forces are attacking Robotyne and in the western part of Verbove. There is no updates regarding any other things. Ukrainians are supposedly still trying to counterattack at Robotyne. There's currently no other news in terms of that. In yesterday's report, we mentioned about reinforcement reaching Novokalynove and supposedly planning to do some attack towards or counterattack against the Russian forces at Robotyne and Verbove. But this have not turned out yet. This have not happened yet. So we will continue to monitor and see how this progress over at the Zaporizhzhia Front. And I think that's all from the Zaporizhzhia Front. There's no other updates in this front line. We move into the Donetsk Front. So this is Donetsk city, and this is the Donetsk Front. At the Donetsk Front, Russian forces are continuing their offensive with fighting reported across the entire front line over at Novodarivka, Staromayorsky, Uruzhaine, Shevchenko, Prione, Georgievka and Krasnohorivka. Ukrainian forces counterattack over, and also at Novokalynove, Ukrainian forces counterattack over there, and also attack at Vodian. Some of this information might be duplicate from yesterday's report, so just take note because of how Russian Ministry of Defense published their reports. It could be replication, and so over at this Marinka sector, there is geolocation of Russian attack against Ukrainian rotations at this area here, showing that the Russians have not really progressed past this point. The front line have not really changed over there. There's no other news regarding Novokalynove just yet. Geolocation of Russian airstrike, I think no, not airstrike, some artillery strike has been reported north of the fishing pond, which means that the Russian forces have not managed to penetrate through into the western part yet. Moving further up north, so there is give me a wait. Over at this Krasnohorivka, as mentioned over at the Frontline Changes report, the Russian forces has now confirmed to be in the southern part of Krasnohorivka, and they are pushing against the Ukrainian forces. This Krasnohorivka is a massive stronghold for the Ukrainians, and this is going to be a very, very difficult city to take. It's going to be very similar to Avdiivka. But this area do not have the geography for the Russians to do this envelopment, for the Russians to quickly take this city. There is airstrikes, however. The Russians have thrown a lot of airstrikes, very massive bombs at the industrial area, the strongholds in Krasnohorivka. Many footages has came out from Krasnohorivka showing the Russians are hitting this city with massive bombs. Maybe that's the way how they are trying to soften up and push the Ukrainians out of this city. We will continue to monitor and see how these progress. And that's all from the Donetsk Front. Over at the Avdiivka Front, the Russian forces are still on their Avdiivka offensive. This time round, news starting to push, starting to change in a more positive manner for the Russians, with fighting reported at Berdychi, Olivka, Tonenke, Povomaysky, and Nevelsky. Ukrainian forces counterattack over at Vodian as well as Berdychi region. So in this area here, the Russians are only struggling over at Berdychi. In this area here, the Russian forces seems to have been pushed out of Berdychi, and the fighting is now on the eastern outskirts of Berdychi, with the Ukrainian forces putting pressure to retake firm control of Berdychi itself. Berdychi is a previously prepared or well defended line for the Ukrainians before the fall of the Avdiivka city. So the Ukrainians would definitely do better if they are able to retake this village. However, further south, things has turned from bad to worse for the Ukrainians because of this breakthrough over in the south of Olivka, threatening the Ukrainian forces in battles in this area here on the northwestern part of Tonenke. The Russian forces are able to make a break through the center of Tonenke, strangling the Ukrainian forces over in the southern part of Tonenke, which means that this is an operational encirclement. The Ukrainian forces will have to run away from this village, which means that we are probably going to see the fall of Tonenke pretty soon, given this latest development. This is not a Russian propaganda. If you want to know, if you're wondering, this information comes from Deep State UA. The pro-Ukrainian mapping actually is the one that mapped it in this way. So this information actually comes from the Ukrainian side. So we'll definitely continue to monitor the situation over at the Avdiivka Front. And moving on from the Avdiivka Front, we move into the New York Front. There is actually no fighting being reported over here, despite there is this escalation of battles within this Pivdeny New York region. We move into the Bakhmut Front. So this is Bakhmut city. In the southern flank of the Bakhmut Front, fighting is reported in multiple locations at Kyslivka, Andriivka, Kupyansk as well as Ozeryanivka. So the Russians really seems to be accelerating this battle space in this southern part at Kupyansk Ozeryanivka region towards Didievka over here and towards Bilohora. However, there is no mapping or no updates or news regarding the battle space in this area here. We'll definitely continue to wait and look out for intel to see what is the plan or what is the situation over here, because this is actually a better route for the Russians to fight through. And anyway, we will continue to monitor and see how this progress. DPA have actually did a comprehensive report on how the Russians could through this area here take the entire region. So but anyway, we will wait and see. Over in the northern flank, there is no Russian attack being reported in this area here. Instead, we have the Ukrainians attacking in the Berdychi region, trying to retake lost positions. There is geolocation of Russian strikes on Ukrainian forces just off Berdychi. The situation at Ivaniske continues to be a mystery right now. There is some rumors, I think, from in the Russian info space claiming Ivaniske might have fallen, but tentatively there is totally no verified or no trustworthy sources that actually can confirm such an information. So definitely I will ignore such claims for now until my trusted source say something about it. Far off from the Bakhmut Front, over in the west part, over at Popasny, there is a lancet strike on Ukrainian artillery. Pretty far away, I would say the distance between the two from the front line is around 15 kilometers. So definitely the Ukrainians are putting the artillery as far as possible, but lancets have further range than this artillery system. What I missed was actually there's a Ukrainian MiG-29 shot down over Pokrovsk. This shutdown is actually verified. There is footages or rather photos confirming the shutdown of the MiG-29 in the area of Pokrovsk. So yeah, so this is one of the very rare instances where a plane shut down, we actually have a confirmation through footages or photos. Usually we don't have them because this kind of thing is actually operational secret. Such photos would be classified secret or top secret information, usually by the military. So anyway, over at the Siversk Front, there is still fighting being reported at Sperne, based on the information from the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. We will continue to monitor. I'm always curious when this kind of information come out where it's not the usual space where the fighting take place. So we will continue to wait and see for further information. Curiously, no fighting over at Bilohorivka. And so that's all from the Siversk Front. Over at the Kreminna Front, fighting continues over at the Terny region. This time around, only the Russians are being reported to be attacking. The Ukrainians are not reported to be attacking. There is a geolocation of Russian forces on the eastern part of Terny. And this geolocation basically confirms Russian presence in this region here. And this actually confirms our mapping. So that's actually very, very good. So that's all from the Kreminna Front. We move on into the Svatove Front. There is no information anymore about the Russian attack over at Novokalynove and Stemakivka. This might be a reason. This might actually be a result because of Russia did not really post a daily report. They actually post a summary of the past week, so we don't have as much information about the Russians' report or perspective of the things happening in Ukraine over the past 24 hours. Much lesser information. Definitely, we were actually able to see much more, in tomorrow's SITREP. And moving into the Kupyansk Front. Over the Kupyansk Front, the Russian forces this time around, instead of fighting through Tobaivka, this is not happening. Instead, they are now fighting through Kyslivka. And situation over at Sinkivka continues with the Russians attacking. Ukrainians are attacking in the Liman Lake region on the western part of Sinkivka. So this is the current strategic situation over at Kupyansk Front. Nothing much to really talk about over here. That's all from the Kupyansk Front. Over at the Kharkiv region, at Kharkiv, if you want to call it a front, there is Russian airstrike just off the border at Berdychi. So over here, and this is actually the second attack. The previous day, we also have an airstrike reported at Berdychi. So there must be something major in this area here that the Russians have spotted and decided to hit it much more than usual. And further south of that position, Over at Prikolone, there is also another airstrike being reported over here. The fact that the Russians are striking, airstrikes, sending airstrikes into Kharkiv region at will, might suggest that there is a severe lack of surface-to-air missile system on the Ukrainian side. So we'll definitely continue to monitor and see how the Ukrainians are going to react to this, or would this herald a new operation from the Russians to come back to the Kharkiv front. But tentatively, I don't think there's any benefit for the Russians to do this right now. They can still wait further to weaken the Ukrainian forces furthermore, and also to see how NATO will react after a lot of chest thumping. So that's all for the summary for the day of 744 for the 8th of March. Going to do some conclusions. So do press the like button if you have not pressed the like button, and for those that have not subscribed to this channel, do subscribe, press the subscribe button, do support the channel, because if you are subscribed, then YouTube will push this to more people that is not subscribed. So that will help to support the channel.